Hi, ladies. Welcome to day one of creating your soul inspired life. My name is Laura LaRock, and I am so excited and so honored to be here with you tonight. And I just feel so grateful that you're sharing your time with me and these 6 amazing women that we have lined up over the next 6 days. I apologize a little bit for our delay tonight if you're waiting for us. Thank you for bearing with us. We've both experienced a little bit of technical difficulties, but that's life, right? So we're here. Jen and I are super excited to jump into some deep soul connecting conversations with you. And before I bring Jen on, I just want to quickly just share with you what the goal is over these next 6 days. So this series is called Creating Your Soul Inspired Life. And it is my goal to just show you that no matter where you're at in your life right now, whether you're unhappy in your relationships or your jobs or your career, you feel this inner nudge, this niggling that you want something more. It doesn't matter where you are, where you've been in the past. When you learn to take action on connecting into your soul and then taking inspired action from there, you literally can create anything that you desire in your life. And when I say anything, like think ideal careers, like imagination careers that seem like so far from reality, they're not. Think about going to work and being completely satisfied and fulfilled. Think about your relationships, perhaps with your spouse, just transforming that to passionate romance, fulfillment. Anything is possible. Experiencing inner peace and happiness on a daily basis. This is all possible when you can connect into your soul and take action in your life from there. So we have 30 minutes with each guest, and so I don't want to waste all the time with me talking. I want to get Jen on. So I'm going to bring Jen on. As you ladies are joining us, please feel free to leave a comment of where you're watching from and just let us know that you're here. And anything you'd like to comment during the conversation, let us know, because if we don't have time to get to it during the video, we'll always pop back afterwards and reply to the comments and help you out there. So I'm going to bring Jen on right now, and I'm going to give Jen a little introduction. Hey, Jen.
Laura, thanks for having me tonight. I'm super excited to share.
Good. I'm so glad. I just want to quickly read Jen's bio for you ladies so that you have a really good understanding of who Jen is and where she comes from. And then we're going to jump right into it. So Jennifer Jayde is an international best-selling author, speaker, and mentor for the woman desiring to uncover her best self, dissolve what holds her back, and lead an inspired, soul-aligned life full-time. Her teachings blend deep spiritual awakening with personal growth, teaching you how to unite with your highest self so you can align with your highest potential and become an inspiration for those around you to do the same. Within 2 years of stepping into her own soul-aligned role, Jen has been invited to TV interviews both in Canada and the US. She became an international best-selling author and speaker, and she was asked to guest host worldwide tropical retreats for women desiring to lead a soul-inspired life full-time. So Jen resides part-time in San Diego, California with her husband and her tiny fur baby. And she also lives part-time on Vancouver Island, but she feels at home wherever there's sunshine and salty air. So Jen, I am so honored that you are my first guest kicking it off with us tonight, because I actually had the privilege and the honor of working with you privately, one-to-one, over 2 years ago. And you radically helped me change my life. I know personally I was in a little bit of a struggle at that time. And when I look back, it's crazy all of the things I've done since then. So thank you for being here and sharing with us. I just can't wait to jump into this conversation with you.
Thank you, Laura. I was thinking about that before we got started, and I vividly remember our first conversation. Like, it was our meet and greet call just to see if we were even a good fit to work together. And I was just like, oh my gosh, like, there's so many similarities. I almost felt like we were a soul divided in two, and I was like, you did what? Oh my gosh, me too. And wow, I really felt like we were soul sisters. My husband always makes fun of how terrible my memory is, but I remember that call vividly. And it's funny because when I see you now and I see the way that you're really being vulnerable and sharing and getting out there and really supporting other women and other people, and I contrast that with who I was speaking to 2 years ago. It's like two different people. But it never feels accurate to say, oh, you're a totally different person now, because what I believe is you were this person all along, and you're going to continue to evolve even from here. It's just that, you have shed the layers of the parts of you that weren't real. So anyways, that's my little here, and to share whatever comes through us today with whoever's listening. I'm sure that they're here for a reason, and I'm excited.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. I feel the same way. And, it's really interesting because I totally believe in synchronicities. I used to say coincidences, but nothing is a coincidence. I believe this is all planned out before we come here. And, when you say soul sisters, I used to have a hard time saying that word because I was like, what does that mean? It feels kind of weird, but I completely agree with you. I know that you and I have been connected for a reason much larger than either of us know. And I never would have guessed 2 years ago that we'd be sitting here having this conversation and stepping into our power, sharing with women that they can do the same. So as I shared in the intro, my goal in this 6 days is really just to show ladies what is possible for them. And when I think of why I asked you to come on and share your story with us is because I know that you lived this life that from the outside looked perfect, looked like you had it all, right? Everyone would look at Jen and be like, oh, she just has the ideal life. But on the inside, that's not what lit you up. And you could only fake it for so long, right? So I would love it if you could just kind of share with us a little bit about that and your journey from there, of the feelings you went through. Just your bit of your process, and share with us to where you are now.
Yeah, I'm happy to share this. So I was always in a race to get somewhere. My whole life, as far back as I can remember, I was very ambitious, very driven. I realized that what I was running away from was fear. I was running away from fear of lack and fear of scarcity, and whatever I could do to be successful and not have to worry about money, well, that's what I'm going to do. So I went into finance when I was 18 years old, after I came back from living in England for a little while. And then I had these visions of taking over the company because my boss was going to retire, and he was going to either train me how to run the business for him or sell me the business. I was like, yes, I've made it. I'm going to finance cars and motorhomes, and life is going to be great. And I didn't care that I wanted nothing to do with cars and motorhomes. I just okay, now I have something that I can be successful at and live this lifestyle that my boss has. And it wasn't because I was materialistic or that I wanted all of these fancy things. Those things don't really excite me. What I wanted was to be free from worry about money. And I had witnessed struggle as a young girl, and I wanted nothing to do with that. I didn't want the anxiety that came with it. I didn't want the fear. I didn't want the sleepless nights. So I ran and ran and ran my whole life to avoid that. So by the time I was 23 years old, I had left that finance company because I thought something I was more excited by would be financing real estate. So I became a mortgage broker. Instead of the cars and trucks, I just transferred into doing mortgages. And so by the time I was 23, I had bought a car, a condo, a house, had the big wedding at a castle with my husband, And by the time I was 24, I was like, okay, I'm ready for the fulfillment. I'm ready for the happiness. I'm like, I did it all. Like, what's going on? And I worked my butt off, and I worked so hard and so fast for so long. I thought that once I checked all those boxes, like many of us do, that suddenly everything would fall into place and I'd be the happiest person in the world, and and that I could just kind of coast from there. But that was far, far from how I felt.
Yeah, and I love that your and I's stories are very close in that way, like you said before, about following the path that we thought would bring fulfillment and bring happiness, and then reaching a point where, no, actually, I realized I can't fake this any longer and something does have to give. So from that moment when you decided that this wasn't what really lit you up, what was the changing factor for you? What was the kind of the ball that got rolling you in the other direction?
The discontentment started to get really heavy. And I think that's what the universe does for us, so that we will make it change. The discontentment gets harder and harder and harder to bear the more we resist it. And I was resisting it, of course, out of fear. I was resisting it out of frustration. I had built my, a couple of more years passed. I had built my mortgage business. I had repeating clients and referrals, and that my business was building momentum. And and I thought, okay, well, I can stick it out till I retire, right? Like, I make a decent living. I'll just make sure that I, take a trip once a year or maybe twice a year, and just enjoy myself on the time that I'm not working, and I'll live on the evenings and weekends. And and anyways, that obviously didn't work out. That didn't last for very long. The weight of this discontentment started to get heavier and heavier and heavier. And then around that time, in 2010, I was 26 years old. So I was in this place of like, what have I done? I work so hard. I don't even like this life. It reminds me of the beginning of Eat, Pray, Love with Julia Roberts. And she's like, didn't I want this life? Isn't this exactly what I wanted? And it wasn't. So as I was beginning to see this pattern that I was living the same day on repeat, the same week on repeat, the same year on repeat, and wondering if this was going to be my life for the next 40 years, a very close family member of mine was diagnosed with a terminal illness and passed away 10 months later. And that's when I was like, oh my gosh, what have I been doing? What have I been doing? I've been wishing my life away. I've been wishing for the weekends, wishing for my next vacation, wishing for it to be 5 o'clock, wishing for it to be Friday. I'm wishing my time away when really my time could be up in 10 months, in 6 months, tomorrow. And, I didn't walk out of the office that day, but I definitely started making plans for sure to move on.
So it's basically like when you realized that, you're not guaranteed this time. It can all end in any moment. What am I doing?
Yeah.
And isn't it sad that it oftentimes takes a death or an illness for most people to wake up from that, right? We just think that this is the normal life. We go to work that we don't like. We have jobs that are totally unfulfilling. And that's all okay. The people who are living lives that look really happy and exciting and fulfilling, well, they're just lucky. They got dealt the right cards, right? I kind of got the shitty end of the stick on that one. But what we don't realize, and what I really want to show the women in this series, is that we all come from similar places. We all kind of have that lack and that struggle, no matter, looks different from each person, but ultimately, at the end of the day, we all have to come to that decision of when is enough enough, and what are we going to do to move forward? But you said it, it's the fear. It's the fear of the unknown and the fear of, judgment, criticism. What if I lose it all? But what's bigger, the fear of all of that, or the fear of being on your deathbed and never going and living the life that you truly felt in your heart?
And what you just said, Laura, it was that realization that triggered me to make the decision to leave my job. Because honestly, even to this day, I have never felt fear like I had when I was considering leaving my job in finance. I have never known greater fear, not before that and not since. It consumed my whole body. I don't know if this is everyone's experience, but if I've ever been paralyzed with fear, that was then. That was it. I had 2 mortgages, I had a car loan, I had bills, I had debts, and I'm like, oh, now I'm just gonna just prance out of my office, business that I built, because I was 100% commission based, so I had to build literally my own finance business. And I'm just going to throw caution to the wind and start taking photos for a living, because that's what I really wanted to do, was travel and take photos for a living, destination wedding photography. And I'm like, I need to get my head out of the clouds. I need to be more realistic. What are my in-laws? My in-laws are they're really great people, but they're, old school. Like, you do this, and that's what you do. And you pay off your mortgage as soon as possible, and, retire early, and which is great, and if that makes you happy, awesome. But I was like, oh man, they're gonna regret that their son and this weirdo that keeps moving on to different careers. And I'm gonna ruin my credit. Am I gonna be able to pay my mortgage? I remember finding out one of my deepest fears was I was gonna end up homeless. That I wasn't going to be able to pay my mortgage, and I was gonna have nowhere to go. And I'm going to end up homeless because I've got my head in the clouds thinking that I can just prance around taking photos for a living. So it sounds weird to say it out loud that I had the fear of being homeless, but that was what was buried even below what I even realized was making me feel fear. Sometimes we feel terrified, but we can't even put it into words what we're terrified of until someone asks us. Mm-hmm. Someone asked me, and I got really curious, and I started writing it down, like, what am I afraid of, and then what? Well, and then what, and then what, and then what? And then the very bottom thing was that I'll end up homeless. I was like, oh my gosh, do I actually think that my family is going to let me sleep on the streets, and that I have 0 friends that would ever let me crash on their couch, and there's no way that I could get a side job if I needed to, or... I'm like, that's just so ridiculous. I can't believe that that's what I was carrying around. So it boiled down to, would I rather stay in this job that is completely soul depleting and really has me feeling like I'm existing and I'm just watching the days pass by, I'm not living? Or would I rather try and possibly fail at doing something I love, but at least knowing I tried on my deathbed? I said to my husband, I'm like, I just want to see what's possible. I want to have 12 months to just see what I can do. And if it gains momentum, great. If it doesn't, I'll go back to mortgages. I'll go work at a bank. But I will go back happily. That's an exaggeration. Go back happily knowing that at least I tried. And that was the decision maker. It was no more on the fence, no more considering. It was, I'm done. I set a date, and I left.
And I just love that story. I love that you went into depth about the fear, because how many women can relate? Well, actually, here, Tara says she can totally relate. How many of you can relate to having this big, huge fear that is keeping you paralyzed and living a life that you don't love, that doesn't light you up, when you can do what Jen did, and you can face that fear and you can really dig to the bottom, and in reality, your fear could never even come true. I mean, there is a small chance it could come true, but likely your fear wouldn't even come true.
Struck by lightning.
Exactly, right?
Probability as our very, very worst fears coming true.
Yes, exactly. So, I mean, maybe your fear is actually, it could happen, right? Perhaps it is a real fear. But the good thing about just bringing the awareness into that fear is that, okay, you know what that fear is, and now you can take action around it to not allow it to become your reality, if that makes sense. But what I love that you said about this and your fear is that you you didn't let that fear rule your life. You're not 65, you're not 80 looking back and still in finance. You have actually created a life that at that time, I'm sure seemed absolutely unimaginable or like a Disney movie in your mind, right? So I would love to just hear a little bit about where you are now. What kind of a life do you live? Because this is the soul inspired life that I'm talking about, where you wake up every day and you feel inspired, and you don't just go from being in a struggle to, oh, I live this wonderful soul inspired life. It takes work in between, and it takes soul inspired work, right? But I would just love if you would tell us what your life looks like now and a little bit about how you did get to this point.
So when I left finance, I had no idea that the life that I live now was even possible for me. It was on my radar. It wasn't something I was aspiring to. It was something that it happened over time. It was implemented over time incrementally. So first, I started my childhood dream business, which was to travel and take photos for a living, destination wedding photography. I did that. I worked really hard, and I ended up doing really well. I photographed Hawaii, Australia. I did workshops in Paris and California. This was with great effort and hiring mentors and, working really, really hard. A level of hard work that I don't believe in anymore. Um, so I had this thought a couple years in, and I thought I was going to be a photographer for the rest of my life, just like I originally thought I was going to be a mortgage broker. I thought I was going to be a photographer for the rest of my life. And I had this thought creep in around 2014, the only thing that could be better than this would be showing other women how they can do the same. As I thought about the version of me sitting in my office, my windowless office, not even remembering the last time my skin saw the sun, and thinking that was it for me. And then to be living this life of traveling and taking photos and knowing that I've never felt like I was extraordinarily good at anything. I don't have any rich parents. I never had any handouts. I come from a small town. There's no connections or extraordinary abilities or talents or head starts that I had. And I thought, oh my gosh, if this ordinary person like me, who didn't really have high confidence or skills or natural abilities of any kind, can actually do what I always wanted to do as a kid, well then I need to go back to every woman still sitting in her office. Let her know she doesn't have to have been dealt all the perfect cards to be living the life she loves. And I wanted her to know that. So that's when I started to transition from photography into what I do now. And this has been more fulfilling than anything I've ever done. And what my life looks like now is I live part-time in San Diego, California, which is like my favorite city on the planet. I have a lot of favorite cities. I love New York, I love Rome, I love Sydney, Australia, but San Diego is like, I don't know. I just feel like my soul just feels like, we're home. So I live part-time in San Diego. I live part-time on Vancouver Island in Canada, which is also very stunning. And I've got family here, and I love to go for hikes and go to the waterfalls and things like that. I dreamed of the day that I wouldn't have to wake up to an alarm clock. I never wake up to an alarm clock anymore, unless it's like something that I want to do or I'm excited to wake up or for some reason. But I really cherish the ability to let my body rest until it wants to wake up. That was something when I was in my 9 to 5, I was like, oh God, if I could just stop having to hit the snooze button, that my life would be made. And so I really relish that I don't have to wake up to an alarm clock anymore. I really, really appreciate that I get to choose how my day goes, that I don't have to go punch a clock. I don't have to request days off. I don't have to do as I'm told. I really, really relish the freedom that I have in my day. I really enjoy that, you know, I don't want to bring a downer on anything, but like, if my family needs me, I can go. If I need to attend a celebration of life, I can go. If someone needs my support, I can be there at the drop of a hat. I can change my schedule, and I can take as much time off as I need. I can travel whenever I want. I can work from wherever there's a Wi-Fi connection. And I truly believe this is how we were meant to live. You know, I know that there's got to be people in the world who actually really do love their 9 to 5s. And that's great, because I think ultimately our purpose is joy. I don't want to go too far off topic, but if you enjoy your 9 to 5, that is awesome. You don't need to be an entrepreneur in order to be happy, and that's not the message here. But if you are in a 9 to 5, or you're somewhere in your life where you feel discontent and you feel like, oh man, is this really it for me? Is this really all there is in my life? The answer is no, it's not. It's not all there is in your life, and you don't have to be dealt all the right cards. You don't have to have extraordinary talents or abilities or be charismatic or gifted, or in fact, you can have great fear, great anxiety, debt. You can have no idea where you're going to end up and how you're going to get there, and you can still create a life love. And I think that's the message that you and I, Laura, really wanted to share tonight.
Oh, 100%. You brought it like right around home perfectly, because what I was going to say as you were saying this, like, for one, when you stepped into this career that you've created, like this dream career for you, I personally know that it transformed your relationship too, right? It just has such an impact on your whole life when you are doing something that lights you up. And I love that you say there's women out there who are lit up by a 9 to 5. Of course there is. And we need people to be lit up in their 9 to 5s. We need people to work 9 to 5. Totally. That's what makes the world so amazing, that we all have our own unique things to bring to the world, and these opportunities to show up. But you said it, enjoy. And I think that joy comes from being connected to our soul, being just in like an alignment with who we are and what our life purpose is and what we came here for, because then we're standing in our light, and then we impact the people around us. It transforms our relationships, our families, our friends, and you become that light that everybody wants to know what's up. What are you doing? I want to be like you, but I don't mean be like you. I want to feel like you, right? And I think ultimately that's the purpose of life, is coming here, shining your light, whatever that looks like. And you mentioned the struggle, the debt, the anxiety. I feel like so often, and a lot of the women that come to me, they want to get out of that. They want to get out of that quick. And I get that. I totally get that, because I feel the same way at times. But what I've come to learn is that that struggle is just prepping you for exactly where you're going. You need that struggle to grow into the person that you are meant to be. You need that to relate to the people that you're going to help. You need that to be in the relationships with the people that are in your life. And this is just a perfect segue into something that I work with my clients on all the time, and you taught it to me. So you told me that we always just try to have our whole life figured out all at once, and then we are in that paralyzed fear and we don't take action because we can't see the big picture. Our soul knows the big picture, right? But we, as this physical human being, can't see the big picture. And so we are paralyzed, we don't take the action. But you said to me, Laura, God only gives you steps 4, 5, and 6 when you take steps 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah.
And it transformed my life. It transformed my life because it brought me back to, right, all I have to do right now is the things I can control, which is how I feel, my choices, and how I connect to my soul, strengthen my intuition, take action on those nudges that I get, those the downloads that I receive, right? Take action on them. That's where I say inspired action. And as I take steps 1, 2, and 3, then 4, 5, and 6 appear. And that's exactly what I've seen you say in this conversation tonight, that you would have never guessed you would be sitting here on this really super comfortable looking couch that you have, the fuzzy pillows, when you were in finance and sitting in that windowless office, right? And if you did see where you are today, you probably wouldn't have taken the action because it seemed too big and it seemed too far away, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So
I'm really happy you remembered that. That's so cool. Um, just a brief story to add on to what you're saying. My husband was a professional mixed martial arts fighter. Like he was being paid to have these mixed martial, like UFC style, fighting. If anyone's familiar. And he was climbing up the ranks really fast. He was having great success. He was always winning. He was winning titles nationally. He was moving up in weight classes and winning titles in a weight class bigger than him. And he started training down in California with Team Alpha Male with some UFC fighters, Uriah Faber, and which was originally his idol. Like this, he would just watch all of his fights. Then he became buddies with him. They'd go for runs together, and they lived together in Uriah's house. And it was just like, momentum, momentum, momentum. And this all came crashing down when he got some impinged discs in his neck. And his options were to have surgery right beside, like on and around his spinal cord, and still not be guaranteed that he would ever fight again or stop fighting. And he was literally like, his next contract was probably going to be a UFC fight, which was his big,
oh, wow.
That would be his, like, you and I meeting Oprah or being, interviewed by Oprah moment. And no, that was like right before it was about to happen, it was over. And a little while after that, after I gave him some time to grieve, I asked him, I said, well, what now? And I said, what's your dream now? If you could be doing anything, what would that be? And he said, well, I'd love to have my own gym. I'd love to be able to work out all day. I'd love to be able to train other people. I'd love to just be talking fitness, learning about fitness, getting fitter, being my best, physical self. And I was like, great, let's do it. And he's like, what? And he just kind of laughed. And I'm like, what's so funny? And because I think women are generally the dreamers and the men are the more like practical, logical, just generally speaking. And I was dead serious, and he was just so mystified. And I said, well, yeah, like, why wouldn't we do that? And he said, well, I don't know, maybe because we don't have $2 million to go get this large building and fill it with gym equipment and mats and all. He's like, I can't do that. That's way out of my reach. And I was like, well, I said, if you were trying to leap from step 1 to step 12, yeah, that might be a little bit impossible, or at least feel impossible. But hey, we have this two-car garage that he basically already turned into his own little workout facility. And he had people already asking if they'd hold pads for him, or like roll with him, or teach them some moves, and put them through a workout. I'm like, people are throwing themselves at you, and you have this space. Like, just charge them $20 a session, or $30, and then maybe one person turns into 2, and maybe 2 people turn into 4. And then maybe instead of $20 or $30, it's $50 or $60. And then maybe the garage gets too small, and now you have, maybe it's not a great space, but maybe you find a warehouse somewhere, or something that's not expensive. But you have some clients now, you move to a better space, and then guess what? You have more clients, and you need a bigger space, and it's a better space, and before you know it, you're at the gym, the $2 million with all the equipment, And he was like, oh, okay. And he didn't really want to get he's like, yeah, okay, whatever type of a thing. But I think I kind of, shed some cracks, some light there. And then what year would that have been? 2015. 2017, he opened his own gym. And June 2017. And it's not in our garage. It's in an actual warehouse. And it ended up that he didn't need all the workout equipment because he teaches kickboxing and boot camp style strength and conditioning. And there happened to be a boxing gym that they only use it a couple times a week for classes. So him and his partner use it all the rest of the time for their classes. So the rent is really cheap, and a lot of the mats were already there. It was just like the universe was like, here you go. You said this is what you wanted. Here it is. And so I think of that story whenever someone is like, well, I could never get from here to there. Then you say, well, wait a minute. You don't have to get from here to there. And you don't even have to know how that would ever be, or if it's even possible. You just need to go from here to here. That's it. And like you said, when you take steps 1 and 2, then steps 3 and 4 will be revealed. And if we wait, if Graham would have waited, that's my husband, if he would have waited on the sidelines until steps 1 to 12 were all laid out for him, he would have been waiting for the rest of his life. And I always quote this book by Bronnie Ware. It's The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying. She was a palliative care nurse. That her dying patients, they wanted to impart their last piece of wisdom with her, and she started writing it down, and she found that a lot of them were saying similar things and repeating similar pieces of wisdom. So she started writing them down, then she categorized them into the top 5 regrets of the dying. And number 1 was that I wish I'd had the courage to live a life true to myself. And I'll just never forget that. I share that with as many people as I can, because to me that is now my biggest fear of all, is to get to my deathbed and think, did I live a life for myself or not?
I love that. I love that you shared that story about Graham. I remember before he opened his gym, you telling me this kind of stuff, his goals and his desires, and I've watched now him open it, and I just think it's so amazing that he has you in his life too. And I think that is inspiration in itself, that you have kind of paved the way, and now you've inspired just in your own home. Imagine all of the other people in the whole world you've inspired to follow their goals and their desires. Because I don't believe that our desires, those inklings that we have that really excite us, our imagination, I don't believe we have those by accident. That's the closest link to our soul. And we're just trained in this society to kind of steer away from that. And that's not logical. But the biggest thing about living a soul-inspired life is that it's not logical. It doesn't make any sense. People will think you're crazy, but when you learn to have faith and just take this inspired action, like you're saying, and just taking the steps that are in front of you one at a time, you create this unimaginable life from where you are right now.
Yeah, and the one thing that I really want to highlight right now is that I think a lot of women think it's selfish to go after what they want, and I think it's in our nature to be nurturers and want to take care of everyone else. And it's like, you know what, I'll chase my dreams once the kids are out of the house, or I'll chase my dreams after my husband can, maybe chase his first, if he ever does that, because men usually want the paycheck, the steady paycheck. I'll do it when, I have more time, or I'll do it after I pay off our credit card, or I'll do it when this, that, and there, and we always put everything else ahead of us going after those little breadcrumbs of excitement and joy. Those are the clues. Those are the soul guidance clues, those little breadcrumbs of like, oh, well, this course, this kind of sounds intriguing. I don't know why, but I think I'm going to take it. Or, yeah, I would like to join this yoga class and see what that's like. Or, hey, what is Reiki? Like, maybe I want to learn a little bit more about that. Or, hey, this person sounds interesting. Like, maybe I should connect with them. And you don't have to know why. You just do it because something about it intrigues you or inspires you. And when it gets closer and closer to actually doing more and more and more for ourselves, whether that's investing in ourselves, investing in our learning and teaching in courses, or starting to create our own businesses, it's not selfish, and you touched on this already, because the best way, the best way you could ever encourage your children, your husband, your loved ones, your parents, your siblings to ever be happy or create the life of their own dreams or take control of their own happiness is by you showing them that it's possible. It's not from you telling them, oh, Mom, you should really take better care of yourself and then you might be happier. Oh, Dad, like, well, what if you had a retirement hobby that made you happier? Like, maybe, I used to do that. I used to be the queen of preaching to anyone who would listen. Meanwhile, I was stuck in a job I hated. But I'm like telling my sisters that are 10 and 12 years, you go after your dreams and you do this and you do that. But people don't listen to what you say. They follow what you do. Your actions, being a leader, being an example of what's possible. So people may not listen to your words and they may brush you off when you're trying to uplift them or help them become happier or do something that would make them happy. But they're not going to do it. If you take control of your own happiness and follow your own clues of excitement and really take responsibility for your happiness and not everyone else's, those people are going to start to take responsibility for their own happiness just like you have. And that's how it really works. That's how you really affect change, is by you going first and not putting yourself last and trying to make everyone else happy, because that's what you're teaching your daughters, your sisters, your mothers, everyone around you, to put themselves last. That's what you're teaching them. So by doing the opposite, you're teaching them the opposite as well.
I love that. Perfect summary. That's been my story. That's my life too. And so I'm really grateful that you could hop on with us tonight, Jen, and share all of this. I want to honor your time. I know we're already over half an hour. We did start a little bit late, but I really want to honor your time because that's precious, and all of the time of the ladies watching us. So I think what I would like to say last to cap this off, and then I'm going to pass it back to you, is no matter where you are in your life, whether you're in major debt, whether you're in a relationship that just is soul sucking, whether you have a job that you just can't see yourself getting out of, it doesn't matter, because wherever you've been is the past, and what you have control of is right now. And as Jen said, just following those little nuggets of joy, those little breadcrumbs, that is how you're going to discover what your soul purpose is. So Jen, if you have anything to add to that, I'd love to hear it. Otherwise, if you can share with us where all the ladies can find you and follow you and all of your inspiration and knowledge too, I'd love that.
Yeah, so I was trying to decide what would be most fitting, whether it was the Find Your Purpose quiz or the Free from Fear exercise. I probably could actually drop them both. I'm leaning towards the Free from Fear exercise because I think that is the number one thing that holds us back from living a soul-aligned life, is fear. We think it's, well, I can't live a soul-aligned life because I can't afford to do that right now. I can't live a soul-aligned life because I don't have the time to, start putting towards making that shift right now. But really, those are both a surface level, I'm going to say, excuse for a deeper underlying fear, because what we make a priority, we always have time for. And you don't need all this money in the world to get started. So I'm gonna put in the comments for the original video. I know this is streaming in my group and on my page, but if you click on the actual video itself where you can see all the original comments, I'll post the link there for the Free from Fear guide. That was that pivotal moment. That was the exercise that helped me get off of the fence, where I was considering going after a soul-aligned life, and well, wouldn't that be nice? And maybe I could do it. Well, maybe I should, maybe I shouldn't. This was the exercise that I did when I was like, oh my gosh, I'm doing this. And I could get to the root of the core fear that was holding me back, and I could disempower it. So I'm gonna definitely give that exercise in the comments. I know there's a lot of people that come to me looking for guidance on their purpose and their direction. So I think I will, if that's okay with you, Laura, drop the link for the Find Your Purpose quiz as well, in case.
Of course.
That. I would say I'm probably most active on Instagram. So Jennifer Jayde _success coach on Instagram, and there's a Y in Jayde. Jennifer Jayde _success coach on Instagram. I'm also on Facebook, Jennifer Jayde. You ladies are welcome to message me if you have any questions. I'm very passionate about helping, serving. If there's any way that I can support you, please do let me know.
Thank you so much. I know on behalf of all of the ladies and myself, I am so grateful for you, Jen, and sharing all of these wonderful nuggets with us, and offering all of that free stuff too, and for them to come and follow you. So thank you so much. I just had a weird...
I could talk about this stuff all day, but this is my jam. This is what I'm passionate about.
I know.
Thank you, ladies, watching the live and the replay, for being here.
Yes, thank you, ladies. If you have any comments, leave them. Share your biggest takeaways and your biggest nuggets, because Jen and I will come back and check out the comments too. So have a wonderful night. For anyone who's following the 6-day series, we have the next video tomorrow. It's going to be actually tomorrow morning at 11:30 a.m. Mountain Time, 10:30 Pacific. And I have the beautiful Georgina Durkin. She's from Ireland, and she's a spiritual teacher and intuitive healer. So she's going to be my guest tomorrow, diving into all of this soul stuff. So have a wonderful night. Thank you again, Jen, and we will see you all tomorrow. Bye.